morning. It's a real pleasure to be here with you this morning, and a real honor to have this panel with us this morning. It really is an amazing lineup that we have here. I would call it an awesome lineup, except that I've sworn off that word, at least for now. Maybe amazing is the next awesome. We could go for that. Anyway, we have with us Jean Danubio, who is Senior Vice President of Consumer and Shopper Analytics for the Nielsen Company in North America, where she leads Nielsen's efforts in the integration of all capabilities along the shopper's path to purchase. She holds overall management accountability for Nielsen's HomeScan, Spectra, segmentation, survey, and digital shopping businesses. Jeff Wampler is the Chief Executive Officer of Agile Pursuits Franchising, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of the Procter & Gamble Company. As CEO, Jeff is responsible for the operations, development, expansion, marketing, and sales of the company's Tide Dry Cleaners and Mr. Clean Car Wash businesses worldwide. Christophe Garnier is co-founder, president, and chief marketing officer of Totsi.com, the leading private sales site focusing on the parenting segment, selling all products and services related to families. Christophe heads operations, marketing, product development, and financial modeling. And Jim Fielding is president of Disney Stores Worldwide at Disney Consumer Products, Inc., where he oversees global sales, marketing, studio, merchandising, creative, and synergy initiatives, as well as special events, and is also responsible for Disney Retail. Previously, he was with Land's End and the J. Peterman Company. I actually would like to just start by pointing out that two of our four panelists this morning were winners last year of the Hub Prize, which is the Hub Magazine's award for honoring excellence in the retail experience. Actually, both Tide Dry Cleaners and Disney Stores were winners, and both of them as well. Disney last year was an Edison Award winner, and Tide Dry Cleaners is up for an Edison Award tonight. So plenty of honors to go around. I'm sure there are awards in the future for, you got your fingers crossed. I'm sure there are honors and awards ahead for Totsi.com and Nielsen as well. We don't want to leave anybody out. So the way this is going to work this morning is I'm going to ask each of our panelists just to talk for 5 minutes or so about their work as it relates to new retail frontiers, and then we'll open it up for discussion. I'll probably kick off with a couple of questions, and hopefully you'll all join in as well, and we'll get off to a spirited start this morning. But before we get to that, I just wanted to say a few words about why this subject of new retail frontiers is so important. When we launched the Hub magazine in 2004, our stated mission was to explore innovation as the ultimate driver of business growth and success. And that focus very quickly tightened around retail as a platform for innovation. And this wasn't by accident. A lot of it had to do with my own background as a communications consultant working with a number of companies that were involved in building brands through retail. But I think it also, there are a couple of other probably more significant reasons, and not the least of which was, I think, a recognition of the inherent accountability of retail. You know, in marketing, we talk a lot about ROI, return on investment, and usually that discussion centers on measured media, television, radio, and print, and measuring the effectiveness of that, which, you know, is obviously it's very important work. But for me, there was always a disconnect there between the delivery of the message and the transaction actually occurring. Well, that disconnect, that gap closes dramatically, obviously, in the retail store. I like to say that the retail store may be the only place where sales and marketing can happen simultaneously. It certainly is one of the most important places where that can happen. The other thing about retail is I think there's a growing appreciation for it as a medium in its own right. You know, it's really a powerful place. It touches all five senses. It has that incredible immersive quality, and because of that, it has this, I think, great potential, great capacity to connect with the consumer, the shopper, on an emotional level, which is great not only for the retailer in the retail store, but also for the products that are sold there. You know, that to me is really what makes retail the new frontier that it is. It's that ability to really surround and immerse the consumer. It's what makes Disney Store so incredible, and Tatsi.com and Tide Dry Cleaners as well. But the thing about it is that it's really the exception rather than the rule. I think that most retail experiences, I think we can agree, are rather dismal experiences and really don't live up to that potential. I would say two things about that. So the first is that I think that the potential for retail as a platform for innovation is vastly underdeveloped. And the second is that I think that the potential for innovation at retail as an innovative platform could be relatively greater than it is even for products, which I realize that may be somewhat of a controversial statement, especially with this crowd, and so we'll take that as we may. But the thing is that if you think about sort of what we talk about with a typical new product introduction, innovation, we're usually talking about a better version of something that we're already familiar with. But if you think about perhaps the first time that you visited a Costco store and how different that was from any kind of shopping experience that you had previously, you could start to appreciate that there really is incredible potential for innovation there. I mean, Costco was so different that maybe you didn't even know what you were supposed to do when you walked into the store. I'll go to the example that everybody loves to cite, the Apple Store, and think about how different that is from what went before. Maybe the traditional consumer electronics experience of CompUSA at the time, for example. I would even go so far as to say, at least for me personally, if you asked me which was more innovative, the iPhone or the Apple Store, I'll admit I'm biased, but I would say that it's the Apple Store. So that's just some food for thought to kind of get us going this morning, some things to think about, and maybe consider retail maybe in a new light as a true platform for innovation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our panel, maybe starting with Jim Fielding.
Sure.
Jim, tell us about your work at Disney Stores and new retail frontiers.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here today. I thank Tim and I thank the Edison Foundation. You guys have been very supportive of our work the last couple of years. I'm here representing the 8,000 employees around the world that are creating magic in Disney Stores and DisneyStore.com around the world. We're currently in 11 countries, 365 stores. We're open 24/7. I remind myself there's a store around the world open at any time, and then of course the websites are open all the time. And we've really been on a journey for the last 4 years. The Disney Store was a licensed business for kind of the middle 2000s, and the Disney company board of directors made a decision in late 2007 to buy back all the licenses and form, again, a vertical owned and operated specialty retail chain and merge it also with the e-commerce business. So we became a true omni-channel, full touch point for the guest destination. And what Disney Store is doing today, and when I say Disney Store, I mean that's the name of our business unit, but we really don't think of ourselves anymore as just a store. We think of ourselves as magical destinations. We have two taglines. Tim's been a huge fan of two of them. One is the best 30 minutes of a child's day. That really supports our new store design, but our overall mission is really creating magical moments for guests of all ages. And we see ourselves, of course, as a retailer, but we're a product developer, we're an experience developer, we're hopefully a guest service, we're raising the bar on guest service, and we're hopefully helping to create, for just a short amount of times, memories and moments that kids and families can enjoy, both in-store, online, and then hopefully when they get the product at home. I got this job on May 1st of 2008. All of you in the room kind of remember August, September 2008, not the happiest time to be in retail. 2008 and 2009 were tough, and it was tough to really embark on the journey that we embarked on, which was we knew we had to recreate the experience. So I'm very thankful that the board was supportive and gave us the time and the money and had the patience for us to go off into a lab and do a lot of prototyping and a lot of experimenting and a lot of trial and error to really bring the new store design to life. And the new store design, we have 61 actually opens tomorrow, 61 stores around the world. Our goal over the next 4 to 5 years is to get every store converted to the new format. But simultaneously to the brick and mortar experience, we've been working on reinventing the online experience as well. We are very highly penetrated in online sales. I'm not allowed to disclose public because we're in a quiet period, but I mean, we're doing double-digit % to total sales in online, if that helps any of you, which is high. And part of that is because we don't have a lot of stores, and so there are countries and cities and states that don't have a physical store, but they can shop with us online. Part of it is we offer a broader assortment and a collection online than in the store because there's physical constraints of the store. Part of it is because we have an incredible partnership with the Parks and Resorts division, and we offer their product online. We're the only place that you can buy Disney Parks and Resorts merchandise online. But I think it was interesting talking to some of the other panelists this morning. I mean, I think being in retail today, I do think we're innovative, and I appreciate Tim's support. I think you have to be innovative because we are a reflection of what's going on with consumers. It's a consumer-led economy, and if you aren't going to play the games and play where they want to shop and be where they want you to be, you're going to lose the game. And so we love innovation. We're obviously inspired by Edison, but for us, you know, we're inspired by Walt Disney. I spent a lot of my life thinking, what would have the store looked like today that Walt would have built? And I think hopefully that we've built something that he would have been proud of. Working at Disney is challenging because the standard that the sister divisions set is very, very high. The Parks and Resorts, the cruise line, the movies, the TV, Disney Channel. And so we knew if we were going to be in the retail game, we had to do it better and bigger and differently than we'd ever done it before. And we probably do it differently and spend more money on it than most of our competitors would, because we feel like we don't have a choice. If we don't, the consumer won't appreciate it, won't understand the differentiation, and certainly won't value the experience. And you know, I'd say the last thing is that the other thing I love about this industry is that we never rest. We're constantly changing. We're constantly evolving. Every store that opens is based on the original prototype, but we tweak every one of them and are constantly trying new things. And so it's a kind of industry where you wake up every day and you get a report card, which is amazing because you get your sales from the day before, but where you're never bored and you're always challenged because you're moving as the consumer moves. And I think it's a huge opportunity.
Thanks, Jim. Jim, is it true that Steve Jobs was involved in the development of the Disney Store relaunch?
Oh my God, the rumor. Where's the press? Steve Jobs was on the board when we did all this, and I would say that he was an inspiration and a guiding visionary. He did not design the Disney Store. I've gone on record many times saying that. The man was very busy. But I think what Steve did do for us, the two things that I give Steve total credit for is he told us to think big and think new, which obviously Apple had done, and he also encouraged us to do the prototype. And for the first time in our 25-year history, we just had our 25-year anniversary, we actually built a full-blown prototype in a warehouse in Glendale, California, first out of cardboard and foam core, and then out of the actual materials. And so that was a large expense and a big time expense. However, I think in the rollout of the stores, it has helped us immeasurably and saved us a lot of money, because rather than redesigning as we open each one, we took care of it all in the prototyping phase, which I think was a huge gift from Steve that, you know, we give him total credit for.
Terrific. Well, why don't we move along to Jeff Wampler from Procter & Gamble and tell us about Tide Dry Cleaners.
Thank you, Tim. It's an honor to be here with you and this wonderful panel, and Andrea and the Edison Awards. I do have my fingers crossed for this evening, so we'll find out what happens a little bit later. You know, Tide was introduced in 1946, and really seen at that time as an everyday wash day miracle that helped mom care for her family, her family's clothes, and give her, more time to spend with her family at the same time. And over the years, innovation is really the lifeblood for P&G. We introduced Tide Liquid, Tide with bleach, Tide with a touch of Downy, and many of you are probably familiar with a lot of these innovations over the years, and Tide dry cleaners in 2008. And some of you may be thinking, well, why dry cleaners? Dry cleaners is a $9 billion industry, primarily independents. Consumers are generally dissatisfied with their experience. There's some good dry cleaners out there, but by and large, a lot of consumers are very dissatisfied. P&G spends a lot of money getting close to the consumer. I think we field like 10,000 studies every year just seeking to understand the consumer, uncover insights, and bring forward innovations. And Tide Dry Cleaners is no different. We spend a lot of time with consumers. Tide, the brand, is the detergent brand, is a $3 billion brand. It's the market leader in the U.S. and in many parts of the world, and consumers told us that it was a natural extension to go from Tide detergent to Tide dry cleaners. The proposition itself, if I could just kind of give you a verbal tour of the experience and the operation, when you're kind of driving down the street, you'll see a building on the side of the road, and the bullseye prominently displayed, of course, around the building. There's a drive-up valet, which will allow you to drive up within minutes and drop off your clothes or pick them up. There is a locker system that facilitates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a customer coming in after hours and dropping off and picking up their clothes. If you walk into the dry cleaner operation, the first thing that kind of hits you is the scent and the aroma of Tide, which a lot of consumers tell us they just love, both on the detergent and in the dry cleaning operation. In fact, we had one consumer tell us that she likes the experience so much that she'd feel comfortable with her daughter working in that environment, and primarily because of the way it looked and the scent. When you're standing in the front, you'll see our prices are posted, and we believe in transparent pricing. And some of the dry cleaning experiences out there, you don't know what you're paying. It's kind of a black box, so we post our prices. You'll see 2 large dry cleaning machines beyond the customer service counter, and of course they're painted orange, and they look like 2 large boxes of Tide with the bullseye. We leverage Green Earth Cleaning, which is a silicone-based cleaning solvent as well. We have special services like that leverage P&G's historic thread care technology, like color restoration or white restoration or back to black. So if you have a black dress that's your favorite black dress that's faded, that you haven't worn in a while because it's faded but it still fits, we can dye it back to black for you, or a faded black polo, we can dye it back to black. This leverages some of P&G's innovation technology we've developed over the years. And of course we have a rewards program called, the Bullseye has circles, Inner Circles reward program, and with that we're able to give our most loyal consumers bottles of Tide detergent or Downy Unstoppables or other P&G products to try and differentiate the proposition for the consumer. All of this in an attempt to change dry cleaning for good. That's really what we're about with Tide Dry Cleaners. We have 8 units in operation today, with several more planned to open in the coming months as we look to become market leaders in the dry cleaning space.
Jeff, you also have Mr. Clean Car Wash as well. Where do you go for? I mean, there are a lot of Tide brands. Are we going to see Crest dental clinics? And
a lot of P&G brands. Yes, we have Mr. Clean Car Wash. Mr. Clean was introduced in the 50s, and many of you, it's a hard surface cleaner. May remember Mr. Clean. I have a little bit too much hair here, and I certainly don't have the muscles. But he's been a family favorite since the 50s, and since the early copy that talked about how Mom loves Mr. Clean, Dad loves Mr. Clean, Fido loves Mr. Clean. So the Mr. Clean Car Wash proposition is really about celebrating the genie and the magic, if I could steal a word from Disney, and bringing that into the car wash, full-service car wash environment, and differentiating that proposition as well. We have 14 car washes today in Cincinnati, Atlanta, and also in Texas. I think it's fair to say this is a starting point, but job one is to focus on these two propositions and to continue to expand them and ensure they're successful. We have a lot of interest, not just in the U.S., but around the world for our current propositions, Tide dry cleaners in particular.
Terrific. Well, we'll go from the terrestrial of retail to the online to the digital world. And Christoph, will you tell us about Tatsi.com?
Good morning. So about 3 years ago, we were looking, friend and I, for a recession-proof type of model. I was failing on my second venture online, and it was time to find something that could actually survive the recession. So we launched exactly at the point where you were getting into Disney, and it was very difficult to find something that could actually sustain. And we looked everywhere in the world what were the models that could actually benefit the consumer in such a difficult time. And we discovered this company based in France, and actually a US company was kind of starting the same model. Company in France is called Vente Privée. It's about 1.3 billion euro company today. It's 7 years old. And in the US, a company can copycat that model. The company is called Gilt.com. There is a couple more, Outlook and Rulala.com, which are all really focused on the fashion market. And we thought that the model, which is the flash sale model, the private sale model, was a very interesting model. I'm not sure if everybody is really familiar with it, but basically the concept is to propose different brands every day on the website. The sales are really dedicated to each brand, and they last only for 3 days. So all the consumers that sign up to that website receive an email every day with the list of brands that are going to be sold, and all the items related to that brand are very deeply discounted. The sales last for 3 days, and at the end of the sale, the store basically closes. So we decided to go for that model, but on a very specific segment that was not exploited at all, the family segment. We realized after looking at a lot of different potential market segments, we looked at sports, we looked at travel, we looked at parenting, and the parenting space was very interesting for multiple reasons. The reason number one is that the distribution channels related to all the parenting brands is extremely fragmented. There is only a couple of guys that own the market in terms of market share, which are the Disney stores, Toys R Us and Babies R Us Group, and Bye Bye Baby. Other than that, all the brands, and there is about 8,000 of them in the US, are all fragmented in many, many different stores. So there is a problem to solve right there with brands that need distribution. The second aspect that really attracted us is the user acquisition cost. The user acquisition cost, meaning acquiring a mom online, was much cheaper than going after a travel addict or a sports addict, because there is already a lot of people in the sports and the travel industry online. So considering also the very viral aspect of the moms and all the mom bloggers out there that actually were going to boost our user acquisition and reduce the cost overall for all our entire marketing strategy, we went for that. And we launched Tatsi.com. And Tatsi.com is the leading flash sale site for the parenting market. The company is about 3 years old now. We have about 120 employees based here in New York City. The company has grown like crazy, and we hope it's going to continue that way. We work with about 2,000 brands. We launch 20 sales every day. Across the board, we sell apparel, gears, toys. We start selling services. We're about to start our own subscription service. We discovered that the flash sale industry is going to converge with a lot of different industries online, including the local deals, including the subscription-based services. So Tatsi is slowly becoming kind of a parenting destination, but it's all about keeping the prices low in order to make sure that we keep our moms very happy. We have about 2.5 million moms on the website right now, receiving an email every day. We have one of the highest conversion of number two buyer in the industry. We have about over 14 or 15% of our users are buyers, and we're about to release many more services in order to continue growing that database of 2.5 million users. I would say that Totsi is also a social shopping experience. It's all about giving our moms the ability to connect with one another, recommend each other, invite each other, share experiences, share products. And this entire social shopping experience has really enhanced the entire business and created about a 30 to 35% organic growth on our website, which means that we paid for about 60 or 65% of the user base. All the other users have been either invited by friends or generated by social media. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, all those different components are an integral part of our experience online.
Christophe, I understand that the entire premise of Totsi.com is to not have stores, but can you ever envision a circumstance under which it would make sense for you to have physical retail in combination with the online?
Absolutely not.
Quick answer.
I'm glad I'm sitting between you.
Absolutely not. No, actually, the entire model is really based on not holding any inventory. So we have zero inventory when we close a sale at the end of the day. I mean, now we close 20 sales every day. We send a PO to the brand at the end of the sale only, and we send a PO with the exact amount of inventory that has been sold on the website. A few days later, we receive one container with all the items that have been already sold. They go through our warehouse, which is basically a transit warehouse. And the items stay in the warehouse only for less than 12 hours. They are repacked into Totsi boxes and sent to our consumers. So it really makes no sense for us to have any stores that would increase our cost and our burn, and make the value proposition for the user not as interesting as it is today.
Great. Well, this is a natural segue to Jean Danubio from Nielsen to talk about the shopper.
Thanks, Tim. So Nielsen has a very different perspective than the innovators we have here, but I did hear both from Jim, Christophe, we did hear a lot about consumers and shoppers, and I think the Nielsen perspective is that shopping behavior is changing. There's some dramatic forces that are happening in our marketplace that are changing shopper behavior. But Nielsen has a really unique perspective because we actually, in the CPG industry, we actually work with both manufacturers and retailers, and we drive collaboration in that space. So our perspective is really both from the manufacturer and the retailer. But what I'd like to share with you is what we see as some of those forces that are going to change the ways that shoppers shop over the next 10 years or so. So there's really two major forces that we see, and there are several others that are out there, I'm sure. But one is really the consumer. So we do see a major change in the American consumer, and we anticipate in the next 10 years that the demographic shifts will be dramatic. We'll see polarization of income, where we'll have extremes, both the low end and the high end. And so what that's causing in the retail space is we're seeing extreme value retailers emerge, like Aldi, and the dollar channel is growing significantly. But we're also seeing growth in the high end. So really the polarization of income. That's one of the trends that we're really keeping an eye on and working with our manufacturers and retailers to drive that trend. The second is something we've been talking about probably for 10 years, and that's the multicultural consumer. So that conversation's been going on for years, but we do anticipate 10 to 40% growth in multicultural households in the U.S. It's going to vary by age, and so I say 10 to 40%. But that consumer is not being catered to today. So our new product innovation group does a lot of research on new products that are launched, and only a small portion of those are geared towards the multicultural consumer. Also, our Nielsen watch side of our business, our media assets, we actually look at spending, and there's not a lot of spending to the multicultural consumer. So I guess the challenge for both manufacturers and retailers is capture and look at those consumers as opportunities and continue to drive against that. The third and final consumer shift that we're all aware of is the aging population, and that's going to cause some new needs, and those who are going to win are going to be those who capture those consumer needs in new and unique ways. So as I look at consumers and shoppers, the changing demographics and the changing face of the American consumer is really relevant and will have an impact on all of us. But there's another force out there that we're all debating, and the future of digital. So Christoph, you talked about not having retail stores. So digital will play a really important role in shoppers and how that influences shoppers, whether it's e-commerce and the role that e-commerce will play in certain industries, even as far as CPG, we anticipate 25% growth in e-commerce sales. But also, and I think more interestingly, is the role that digital can play in marketing to shoppers. So as shoppers go along their path to purchase and they make decisions, digital offers and mobile offers really unique ways to actually capture that shopper's need. So personalization and convenience and all of those attributes that are fundamental to shopping are capturable in a digital environment. And so those manufacturers and retailers who actually think about how the shopper progresses through their decision process are those that are going to win.
So as this relationship between the digital and the physical, how much of it is threat? How much is opportunity? I put that to the whole to Gene and to the rest of the panel.
Yeah, I'll start that one. I actually see it as a really big opportunity. There's certain industries, and we've done a lot of research that says that category really matters. So there's certain industries that will be revolutionized by e-commerce, and there's others that'll be more of a gradual evolution. So CPG is one where, the thought of buying all your groceries on sale online may or may not happen. So we could debate that. But the opportunity is really in marketing to the consumer. So for the first time, we can personalize offers to a consumer. And so that's where I really see the power of what digital can bring.
So Jim and Jeff, how do you see it?
Yeah, I think it's I agree with Gene, it's a significant opportunity for us. I think the last number I saw was that 50% of U.S. consumers have a smartphone, and 3/4 of those consumers are making purchases with those smartphones, and the projection is for that to continue to grow. So it's a significant opportunity for us, for those of us, and all of us should be, that are focused on consumer-driven innovation. As an example, in the case of Tide dry cleaners, we have over 80% of consumers that come in, first-time consumers that we ask if they're interested in being part of our loyalty program, and they sign up for it. And they give us their email, they give us their phone number, and it allows a one-to-one personal relationship to be built with these consumers, which is just a wonderful opportunity for, again, companies that are focused on consumer-driven innovation. We can text her when her clothes are ready, when they're ready to be picked up. It's more convenient for her as well. We can offer a text when a consumer is driving by and offer a message like, by the car wash, like, your car looks dirty, maybe you need a car wash today. Because car washing is an impulse category. So I agree with Gene. It's a significant opportunity.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think it not only is this a significant opportunity, we don't have a choice. If you're going to be in this business and listen to the consumers and listen to the shoppers, you have to be where they are and how they want to interact with you. I think a lot of the media and a lot of the attention on where it's a threat is if you're selling a basic commodity in a brick and mortar store and you have no differentiation and your only differentiation is on price, I think that you can get in trouble quickly because of the comparative shop bots and price. So if you're only if you're in the commodity business, I think Jean's comment about groceries, if you're in a basic commodity that can be bought in many different places, and again, your only differentiator is price, digital is a threat to you. If you're in a business like Jeff's in, or where we're in, where your experience and your product is differentiated and unique, it's an enhancement. And I think that's a really, really important point, because the digital is just, it's a marketing tool, it's another way to interact with your guests, it's a way for them to shop. And I think the growth that's astounding me, and I think the 50% smartphone penetration, just last Christmas, just the growth of mobile. I mean, our team has moved on from talking about e-commerce to just talking about distributed commerce. I mean, because the number of people that bought holiday gifts at disneystore.com on a mobile device was triple digits over what it had been a year before. And so when you look at that and you start to think about your website design and, terms that I've never used before in my life, like, is it fat finger friendly? I mean, that, as a brick and mortar person, you got to quickly get up to speed and say, oh, I get it, But, I mean, when you just think about, and so how do you take an experience, and I'm sure Christoph's going through the same thing, where, you have all these SKUs online. How do you curate that assortment? How do you edit that assortment to make it iPhone, iPad, Android friendly? I mean, that's a big, big challenge, which is interestingly akin to being a brick and mortar retailer where you have to edit and curate an assortment because you're in a physical space. So to me, I think it kind of all comes around. I mean, the skills are very similar, is that people want breadth online, but at the same time they want it to be fast. And so how do you do both?
Anybody has questions on this? Right here.
Are there any plans to open up Tide Cleaners in the city? And how would you do it?
Well, I think it's a great question. We plan to open up Tide dry cleaners all over the United States. So how we do it, we're going to do it with franchisees. This is a franchise business model, and understanding what's unique and different about each and every city and desired consumer experience around the United States is where we're going to focus. We have a saying at P&G, it's not my wife, even though she would like to think she's the boss, she's not. Or, Bob McDonald, don't tell him I said that, our CEO, but it's the consumer that's the boss. So getting close to the consumer and understanding what's unique about, New Yorkers and their experience here. It would have to look different than, the model that we have in Cincinnati and you can't drive through. But there's other things that we can do, walk up valets, and to create the ideal experience within arm's reach of New Yorkers, and really offer impeccable cleaning, pressing to perfection, and an emotional connection with the consumer, I think is very, very important. So for example, whether it's a walk-up in New York or whether it's a drive-through, understanding the consumer, knowing that maybe your son is going through graduation or your daughter's getting married, and thinking about, we're not just in the clothing care business, we're about helping people look their best. And connecting with the consumers to deliver that is key for us. Knowing that, if you're walking your dog through the park and you walk up to Tide Dry Cleaners, we have biscuits for your dog because we know you so well, or lollipops for your kids. So I think it's delivering that functional benefit, making an emotional connection, and delivering an experience that's unique to the consumer where they live.
It's such a great example of retail's capacity to make your life, everyday life, a little better. It may not be the 30 best minutes of your day, but it's not like walking into sort of the traditional dry cleaning experience, which usually isn't all that great. And it's really terrific.
I'll debate that.
You'll debate that?
It's pretty darn good.
No, I know. Yeah, I was referring to the old school.
Yeah.
While we're talking about digital, but other than digital, what do you see as the greatest changes ahead in shopping behavior?
Real turn.
So I can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Well, I think there is a couple of things which are really going strong right now in terms of innovation, and the first is mobile. Definitely. I mean, we have about 25% of our moms connecting every day on their phone and looking at the sales we have, and there is a lot of challenges. One of them James talked about it. It's the curation, because when you have thousands of SKUs that you're selling every day, how do you make sure that you present that the right way in order to get users to actually click and buy, rather than spending an hour on your mobile site and checking out without buying anything. So relevancy is top of mind. So trying to really gather as many metrics and behavior metrics on your users in order to get there. It's really like a funnel game in order to show to the user, to display to the user exactly what he wants to see, what he wants to buy based on his need, based on his behavior, but also based on his profile. So in order to really understand the needs of that consumer. The second thing that's really increasing in terms of uptake is the social related shopping. We've seen an incredible adoption of all the social media outlets that we've been plugging on our website. That includes Facebook, that includes Twitter, that includes Pinterest. And the really interesting thing is that there are very different people adopting each of them. Some moms are just going to be spending the entire day on Facebook, while some other consumers are just going to check in on Pinterest and not use the other media. So it's really important to understand who uses what and how and why, and how do we engage the consumer with each of them, because they can really move the needle a lot on your bottom line at the end of the day. So those two components, I would say, would be two key avenues to really look after when it comes to digital retail.
Jim, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much innovation going on. I mean, Christophe definitely nailed it, and I think in the physical side, I mean, there's a lot of innovation going on, and you see a lot of redesign going on, redevelopment of kind of current brands. I think the other thing I'm watching with great interest is just the launch of a lot of small, entrepreneurial, almost mom and pop formats again. Things that feel very local, very edited, very focused. I think the other thing in bricks is kind of this trend towards small is beautiful. That the days of the superstore and the 100,000, 200,000 square foot experiences, you see a lot of brands and stores looking at how to make that smaller, more intimate, more local, more personalized. I think that's going to continue to go on. And so instead of having a chain with 900 stores of the same format, you're seeing chains have 300 stores of one format and then launch another format that may be targeted to a similar consumer but slightly different. So if you look at something like a J. Crew, Madewell, Crew Cuts, J. Crew for men, very, kind of almost fragmentation and micro marketing to specific unique segments and small formats. And we're watching that really, really closely. And we're doing it on our own. I mean, this fall we're launching a Disney baby store, so a freestanding only baby store, which is our kind of our nod to that trend and what we see going on. So I think there's innovation happening everywhere.
One of the questions that innovators are always interested in is what were the obstacles that you faced? And how did you overcome them? Jeff, do you want to? Jim is laughing.
Get the couch.
Well, I'm very fortunate because I work at a company, Procter & Gamble, whose statement of purpose speaks to bringing products and services focused on improving consumer lives in more parts of the world more completely. So it's a consumer-driven environment and culture that has been built. And knowing that the consumer is the boss and focusing on understanding the consumer in this case, and whether it be car washing or dry cleaning, understand there's unmet needs with respect to the consumer, and that the brand can extend from, in the Tide case, detergents to dry cleaning, is data that bringing that forward in a consumer-driven, really ecosystem, where the entire organization is focused on the boss or the consumer, and having an awareness and an understanding, and really what I call a respect and a love for the consumer. You know, as we think about it, because it's real easy to say the words consumer-driven innovation, but we try to think about it a little bit differently. So, you know, I have 4 kids and you know, 3 daughters and a son, and when I think about, let's say, their birthday for one of my children, you think about, or friend, or, you know, husband or father, you think about what's unique regarding that individual that you love and you care for, and what are the unique insights such that you can bring forward a gift that really delights and creates a wow. We have that culture at P&G, and we try to take that and translate it to consumers and have an awareness, a respect, and really a love and a passion to delight our consumers. And when we treat it that way, you know, our most senior leaders walk the talk. They're out there connecting and visiting with consumers and leading the way for us. So I'm very fortunate to work in an organization that's a consumer-driven one.
It's been the case before. Friends of us who had no choice but either sell their company to Amazon because there was no way that they could compete. A company like Diapers.com who had no choice to sell about 2 years ago. There was a good sale, but still they could have grown like 10 times more. And for us, it's really about how do we continue to innovate within the innovation, and how do we continue to be on that speed mode all the time by launching new things in order to launch them faster than bigger companies. And I'm not talking about bigger companies, Procter & Gamble bigger companies, because it's slow moving, it has a lot of money, and but companies like Google that are a bit faster moving, but still they are still too slow in order to go as fast as a small and nimble company that's, you know, 50 to 100 employees. When you go over 250 employees, that's it, it's over. You can't be fast and nimble as it requires in order to continue to innovate. So
How do you scale? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How do you scale, but then also somehow keep your headcount?
well, we try to find models that don't require, you know, a scale of headcounts, just a scale of revenue. It's nice, isn't it?
That's a no.
Isn't it, right?
Yeah.
So we try to avoid, you know, headcount intensive type of models. We are deploying multiple revenue streams within the consumer target and within the consumer promise that we have. We closed $2 million in the first year, 15 on the second one, and 45 this year, and it's going to continue on growing like that if we continue to observe that very specific how do you say it? Avenue of going after those very high margin and doesn't require too many people in order to continue to grow that way. Excuse my French.
Jim, we don't have a couch, but
No, I
you
know.
want to tackle this one?
No, I mean, obstacles. We're blessed to work in an incredible company with a big brand, but I mean, it's expensive what we're doing. I mean, our obstacles were money and patience, and some of the returns don't always come immediately. So do you have the fortitude and the perseverance to wait for the returns, because some of this stuff isn't a light switch. It doesn't happen overnight. And so, spending a lot of time on visioning and strategies at the same time, to Gene's point, where the consumer is just changing so fast. And Christoph talked about, the pace of change. I mean, I think, it's very difficult to be nimble and scale and structure all at the same time. And so how do you create that environment of innovation where you're reacting, but at the same time, in our case, investing, a nice amount of capital and creating this experience. So, and I think the macroeconomic environment is not anybody's friend. We're a global business. Which helps you diversify a little bit. We're actually doing more of our business outside the U.S. and Disney Store now than in the U.S., but we have 110 stores in Europe right now, and that's not easy for anybody, regardless of how good you are at everything that you're executing, there's certain macroeconomic trends and consumer behaviors and consumer pressures that you just cannot overcome. And so you just hope that you continue to do the best you can do, and that when the economy turns in your favor, they come back. But I mean, that's an obstacle. I mean, we spend a lot of time saying control the controllables. Retail is detail, and control what you can control. Right now, I cannot control the Spanish economy. But I still have to open 20 stores every day and a website and do the best we can do, you know, in an economy that is extremely, extremely challenging.
Perfect. With that, I'd like to thank our panelists, Jim Fielding from Disney, Christophe Gagnier from Tutsi.com, Gene Danubio of Nielsen, and Jeff Wampler of Agile Pursuits at the Procter & Gamble Company. Thank you very much.